Today's show is brought to you by State Farm agent Brian McDevitt. Here's the deal. When you combine State Farm home and auto insurance, save an average of $889. State Farm agent Brian McDevitt is ready to help you combine home and auto and save in Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. Call Brian today at 630-796-2662. That's 630-796-2662. Or visit his website, ryanismyagent.com. That's ryanismyagent.com. And make sure to mention Sports Talk Chicago. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I want to start today with this. Even when you're a contender, even when you're supposed to be a World Series winner, every season you go through ebbs and flows. Remember 2016? Remember where the Cubs were in 2016? They had many problems during the year. There were issues, there were concerns, they overcame everything they won. They were down 3-1 in the World Series, and they came back to win. I know they won 103 games, and they were elite, but even the best team, like the Cubs, wasn't dominant. They had issues. They overcame them and won. That shows how strong they are, how much willpower they have. But they still had issues. There were times in which everybody thought, this isn't a World Series team. There were times in which Joe Maddon and his leadership ability were questioned publicly. There were times in which players were degraded for their performances. Rightfully so if they didn't perform, but the point is, the World Series heroes that we know today were at one point criticized because they weren't performing. No one is safe from criticism, from slumps, from issues. No one. Baseball is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Way different than the NFL. In the NFL, you could go 16-0 and go all the way to the Super Bowl. It's such a small amount of games. If you catch fire, you win, great. If you don't, move on to next year. Not in baseball. Not when you play 162 games, plus playoffs. It's a grind. And every day, there's something new. Someone gets hurt. Someone slumps. Someone does great. Someone makes a mistake. You're always going to be called out on it. And you're always going to have to answer to it. The only way you prove everybody wrong is if you overcome it and win. I understand Sox fans are not happy with what happened this past weekend. If you're supposedly the best team in baseball, how in the world do you get swept by the Yankees? Fair point. Tony La Russa did make a mistake. This, of course, from the Chicago Sun-Times. Quote, choosing to continue with left-hander Aaron Bummer rather than give Liam Hendricks a clean inning in the ninth, Tony La Russa watched Bummer allow a leadoff single to Clint Frazier, who then stole second as Brett Gardner struck out. DJ LeMahieu walked intentionally, and when Tyler Wade's dribbler to the right side of the infield went for a single, the bases were loaded for Judge. Hendricks got Judge to swing at the first pitch, and threw 4 consecutive balls to complete the walk-off loss. La Russa said, quote, we liked the matchups in the ninth inning. And the other thing, you still have to think at some point you may need Liam for more for a possible 10th inning. The toughest break was Wade's infield hit. The Sox are 26-19 after losing 3 games in a row for the first time this season. So objectively, how should we interpret this? I know Sox fans who are panicking. That's a fact. I know people who are complaining on Twitter, all scared, wondering if, again, is Tony La Russa the right guy? Is he getting in the way of this team? This is all on him. What's next? They're collapsing. Sound the alarm. No. Did he make a mistake? Yes, he's made a lot of mistakes. He has. As I see this happen more and more, I do lose more confidence in him. That said, here's what I do know. La Russa, proven winner. Season is early. There's still time to get back on track. That's the biggest problem with this team right now. They're inconsistent. They are. 1 week, it looks like they're ready to win the World Series. The next week, they're getting swept. As much as it was La Russa's fault, remember who walked in the run. What a great investment, huh? $50+ million for a closer who comes in and can't throw a strike. Reminds me of something the Cubs did. Oh, that's right, Craig Kimbrell. And I know now he's doing great, but for 2 years he was a bust of a signing. It's really weird. Every time I see a closer get paid, they suck. Remember when Wade Davis got paid? Left the Cubs, 32 out of 33 saves, did a great job, goes to the Rockies, ERA of 8. Jake McGee gets paid by the Rockies, ERA of 8. I'm not saying don't pay a relief pitcher, but I'm saying buyer beware. This is a recurring pattern in baseball. Paying a relief pitcher. The real shame is, I liked Liam Hendriks. Thought he'd be great. For those of you who don't know, I developed a stat for baseball called FERA. You can find it on my website, sportstalkchicago.com. FERA determines how great a pitcher is, a closer, in multiple inning saves. Liam Hendriks in 2019 had an FERA of 1.53. He did great in multiple inning save opportunities. Great closer. 86 innings pitched in 2019. The guy's a workhorse, or he was a workhorse. But the way he's being used now is not good. I get La Russa's concerns about possibly there being a 10th inning. But you're going to tell me there's no one else in that bullpen who could have thrown? It just had to be Liam Hendriks. In that situation, in the tie game, there were definitely other guys you could have used. But it didn't happen. I really didn't like that move at all. Liam Hendriks should have been given a clean inning. That's a fact. I'm not going to blame him for not knowing how to throw a strike. That's his problem, but should have gotten a clean inning, should have gotten time, proper time to start the inning with the start of the order and send them down. And I guarantee you it would have been different. The game would have been different if he started the inning and not came in when all trouble broke loose. That didn't happen. So they got swept out of New York, 26-19. And I still hear the panic button. Bob Nightingale, who was on the program with me last week, just brought up an article today. Tony La Russa said, quote, "I know how I'll be judged. Under scrutiny, White Sox manager Tony La Russa not afraid to face his critics. There is a clear divide here. This is not a good story for the White Sox. It isn't. You're supposed to be a World Series contender. There should not be issues about managers, about there being a divide, about the media covering him, about critics. And may I say, overly critical critics. I mean, I've seen real writers just make jokes about La Russa, of his age. Remember, the media is stirring this up. We heard what Tim Anderson said. He's like a dad to us. Tim Anderson likes him. Jose Abreu likes him. But your mean Mercedes thing, of course, was overblown. Did La Russa handle it right? Not really, no. But everyone moved on. So what's the real deal here? What's the real problem with Tony La Russa? I know what it is. No one wanted him. No one wanted him. And when they got him, they found a way to do everything they could to get him out. So every time they lose, every time he makes a mistake, he'll be put under an intense microscope. Unfair. You need to stop hitting the panic button every time something small, minuscule, goes wrong. Once again, it's May. Once again, 26-19. No one said today, right now, the Sox have to be the best team in baseball. No, there's time. This team is young. Let's not forget that. Do any of these guys have legitimate playoff experience? Not really. I know Andrew Vaughn said it was a playoff atmosphere. He's right. But how do you know? No one's had playoff experience yet. These guys are learning on the fly. It's tough. And you've got a manager that maybe the players like, but the media doesn't. This is unnecessary media attention. We should be focusing on what they need to do to win, not bashing La Russa every second. And this doesn't mean I'm supporting him. I like the hiring, but that's besides the point. The point is, there needs to be a united front. This stuff can't get to their heads. They're going to lose then. That's the problem here. There's an intense microscope on this team. I get it. They're young, flashy, new, supposed to be great. I understand it. But the more and more the pressure is applied, the less results you're going to get. There's no need for pressure right now. There isn't. They're doing fine. Yes, they got swept out of New York, I know. You could be outraged. You could blame La Russa for the bad pick with pitching. I do too. But the season isn't over yet. Everyone said the season was over when they started 8-9. Everyone said the season was over when your mean Mercedes and that whole thing happened. Now what? We're saying the season is over because they got swept by New York in May. It's May. There is time. And all I keep seeing is, well, La Russa better not screw this up. How has he screwed it up so far? Has he made mistakes? Sure. But has he screwed it up? Are they not making the playoffs right now? Are they 10 games under 500? If that was the case, I'd say yes, he screwed it up, should be fired. No reason to yet. No reason to panic. And unfortunately, we're at this spot where the minute he does something wrong, he's taken down. That's not going to get you anywhere. It won't. That will not help anybody. And it's going to cause more pressure, more media pressure, stirring the pot, everybody getting riled up. You could say he's not your guy. You have every right to say that. But if they're winning, if there are some results, and I understand there have been mistakes, but there are some results, you have to let it ride out, for sure. You can't storm down and say it's over now. It's May. It's May. There's time to get it together. There's time to make things better. It's irresponsible to say it's all over. I'm done. Can't take it. La Russa, it's his fault. Just because you didn't want him doesn't mean he's a bad manager. Just because you didn't want Mitch Trubisky doesn't mean they didn't win with him. Whether it was the defense or not, they won. With La Russa, they are winning. It hasn't gotten to a point where the manager's become bigger than the team and he's making decisions purposefully that are causing them to be a 500 team, to be a below 500 team. That hasn't happened yet. They're still above 500, still atop the division, still a very good team. And everybody knows what their intentions are for the season. None of that's changed, despite this sweep, despite the 8-9 start, despite the whole Mercedes thing. We have to remember that. It is not time to hit the panic button. This is like the third or fourth time I've heard White Sox fans panic and say fire La Russa already. It's May. It's May. There's time here. There's time. Everyone is telling you La Russa is wrong for this team. What they're failing to tell you, or what they're failing to really inform you, is that let's focus on the team itself, not on the manager. Why did they lose this past weekend? Why did they get swept? Hitters couldn't hit. Did La Russa make a mistake in Game 3? Yes. Who walked him in, though? Hendricks, too. This is a team effort. You win as a team, you lose as a team. Have there been a few games in which maybe La Russa single-handedly cost them the game? Sure, but it hasn't been every one. You have to keep this stuff in mind. Quote, I know how I'll be judged. Yes, he does. How do you think it feels for him? To hear this stuff day in and day out, to know people are against him, media included. It's really an unnecessary distraction, I think. Just because you don't want him, that doesn't mean you turn this into a big locker room thing, you get in his head, and then they start losing. You could vocally say, I don't want him. But if you're covering the team day in and day out, this stuff will get to them eventually. And that could be the cause of their downfall. You don't know. Could be. Could play a role. The best course of action is to follow this team and see how they could win. Let's talk about matchups. Let's talk about personnel. What they're going to do. Who's hitting? Who is it? How could that be fixed? Not, the manager. That's all I hear. Oh my goodness, the manager. All right, we get it. We get it. I know he wasn't your guy. But look, the season is going on. Your team is winning. And even though he's made mistakes, it seems like the guys trust him. For now. Let's focus on what they could do to win a World Series. Not, I can't stand the manager. That act is old. There's a long way to go. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And there's a ways to go for this season. The Cubs did not have a smooth ride when they won in 2016, even though they won 103 games. There were issues. There were questions. They were down 3-1 in the World Series. That did happen. And they pulled it out. Because as a team, they were capable of overcoming it. When you're criticizing the manager and tearing them down this early in the season, how do you think it'll go the rest of the way? The mindsets here need to change. The way we cover this team needs to change a bit. This is too much for the White Sox. It is unnecessary to be this critical. Now, could change later. If this same stuff is still happening in August, September, that's a big problem. It's May. Remember what I said on opening day. We will not know anything about anybody for 30, 40, 50 games. We know who the White Sox are. Great team, World Series contender. They're ready to win. They're not a middle team like the Cubs. We know what they're supposed to do. So let them do it. Let them be that team. Don't overly criticize now. It's not necessary yet. Things need to be worked out. With La Russa, sure, but with this team, certain guys need to step up. Liam Hendriks needs to do something because this is ridiculous. Way too much money thrown down the drain for a closer who can't even throw a strike. It's not all La Russa. Some of it is, not all of it. And as we sit here, day in and day out, and we see this further, bigger divide around the team about their manager, I feel like that's only going to be detrimental. That won't help. How is that going to help matters for the White Sox? To hear the same criticism and the same storylines all year. Oh, it's because of La Russa. La Russa's a bad manager. He's a disgrace to the White Sox. Think about it. How would you feel if you heard that all year at your job? It would eventually get to you. This is all unnecessary. None of this needs to get to anybody right now. What they need to do is win and play well. Let them play. Let them play well. Let them learn on the fly. It's a young team. There's no need to come at them with a hammer and take them all out right away. Let them breathe. Let them play. And then we'll see what happens. Stop jumping to conclusions. Stop every week saying, oh my gosh, he needs to go because of one bad thing happening. There is time for this team to grow, but you have to let them do their job. More to come here on Sports Talk Chicago. My interview with Jeff Joniak comes up next, so stay tuned. Hey, do you want to make some money this weekend? What if I told you I could offer you $250 free to bet on any game you want? Here's what you have to do. Go to sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. Must be 21 plus, must be an Illinois resident. You get about $250 free on any game you want for this upcoming weekend. Cubs and White Sox, of course, are back. NBA playoffs in full swing. Same with the NHL, plus Bears prop bets. How many touchdowns will Justin Fields throw? Heck, how many games will he start? This is, without question, the best time to put down some money on all of that and make a whole lot more back. At sportstalkchicago.com/cash. sportstalkchicago.com/cash. You have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.